I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the Newark Transportation Development Corporation for Thursday, July 20th, 2017. I'd like to note for the record this meeting is being webcast and that we welcome public comment on the items on the agenda. Directors have received the written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with substantive portions of the meeting, I'd ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If you do, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. Hearing none. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the last directors' meeting on June 8th, 2017. Also, as a matter of corporate housekeeping, approval of the minutes of the April and May 2016 directors' meeting. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions with respect to these multiple sets of minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now, I'd like to request Jonathan Byer to present the next agenda item, requesting authorization to delegate authority to an officer of the New York Transportation Development Corporation to take all related action required to comply with requirements of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act in connection with the financing of the new Terminal C and D at LaGuardia Airport. Jonathan.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. In connection with the redevelopment of LaGuardia Airport, Delta Airlines has requested that the New York Transportation Development Corporation issue bonds in multiple tranches in a total amount not to exceed $3.6 billion, the proceeds of which will be used by Delta to construct new Terminal C and D and make related improvements to certain facilities at LaGuardia Airport. The Transportation Development Corp generally issues bonds and makes environmental findings in the same board action so that the project sponsor can use the bond proceeds to fund construction. In addition, since the TDC only provides financing, generally another New York State agency conducts the environmental review and serves as the lead agency under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SECRA. Here, the only other state agency taking a discretionary action in connection with the project is the Department of Environmental Conservation, which is considering the issuance of certain permits that will be required once construction gets underway. Given the DEC's limited involvement in the project and the magnitude of TDC financing, the TDC, with the assistance of ESD staff, has proposed to take the lead in performing the environmental review under SECRA. Delta plans to begin the early stages of construction prior to the issuance of the TDC bonds as early as next month. Since the environmental review must be completed prior to the commencement of construction, the TDC board is being requested to delegate authority now to an officer to make appropriate environmental determinations necessary to complete the SECRA process. Additional approval of the bonds will be requested of the board closer to the bond issuance date, which is anticipated to be this coming fall. The Board of Directors is accordingly requested to delegate an officer to carry out all actions related to the project necessary to comply with SECRA. Thank you.
Okay, so what is the motion that we're being asked to approve that ESD and will both conduct the financing and the SECRA?
Well, it's actually Transportation Development Corporation is going to do the financing, and the Transportation Corporation is also going to serve as the lead agency, but it's going to delegate an officer. Normally, when we bring the bonds to the board, we would say also approve the environmental. In this case, since the construction is starting so soon and the bonds are not going to be issued for months, we're asking that the environmental process be concluded now. And in order to do that, someone from, usually would be the board, but the board is now being requested to delegate to an officer that authority to approve the environmental. Usually that's done for ESD projects. It's usually done by Rachel Schatz, who's in, what's your full title?
I'm the Vice President of Planning and Environmental Review for ESD.
Okay, and so you are not going to be involved in this SECRA?
I am.
Okay.
You will be involved, and that's part of the purpose of these materials is for TDC. It has an agreement with ESD that TDC uses ESD staff, and so here we're just formalizing that agreement that's already in place to say, and we're specifically authorizing Rachel in her capacity as an ESD officer to sign off for TDC for the environmental.
We're conducting the review now,
Yep.
and we expect to complete it in time for the construction to commence.
Yep.
And it's not an EIS, so it does not require the board to make the determination, and so this is a formality.
Okay.
It's a
So,
little odd in the sequencing, because usually you finance the project before the construction
Right.
begins. Here, the construction's beginning before the financing is complete, but because the financing will come through TDC, the secret has to be completed.
right, okay. Any concerns?
Just to have a question, because I'm unclear as to something. So in this context, the financier basically can also be the declarant for the environmental purposes in terms of same agency. There's history for that, I'm going to assume, like in view of other
Yeah,
experiences.
we went through that analysis with our outside counsel, and we determined that the TDC would qualify for lead agency status.
Okay, any other questions from directors of TDC? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. I don't think we have any other items, do we?
That was it.
Okay. You want hearings? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you all.